So, welcome to this workshop on the Wheel of Life, which is a really handy prioritization tool. My name is Emma. I'm a life coach. I'm also a Reiki healer and a yoga teacher. And my purpose here is to support people in creating a life that they're excited to wake up to every day. And so I know one of the ways that holds us back from that is just getting overwhelmed, not being able to prioritize what things to work on. And so that's why I created this workshop, which is part of a series of 8 free workshops that I'm offering online throughout this month. And the Wheel of Life is this really neat tool that you can use in the moment to just kind of get a snapshot of where you're at, but you can also use it to kind of keep track of your progress and see how you're getting on if you use it regularly, and to look for patterns and behaviors that you're repeating that are holding you back. And it just helps you also to kind of get things into perspective. Sometimes we can get ourselves into a state where we're spinning and thinking that nothing's going right, it's all too much. And then you go through this and you're like, oh, actually, you know what? I'm doing pretty good. And I can see where I can make the most difference. So that's where this tool comes from. And so the first step with it is to conduct an assessment to see where you're at, so that then from that you can prioritize. So what we're going to do is we're going to systematically go through 6 different areas of your life. You may have seen the Wheel of Life tool, and it can be broken up into so many different segments. I've gone for 6 because otherwise it can go on forever. But you can modify it and make it work how it works for you. That's the beauty with any of these tools and resources that I share. Totally take it, make it your own. And so what you are going to do is I'll explain like what I mean by that life area, and then invite you to give yourself a rating out of 10. So where 1 is least satisfied and 10 is most satisfied, as to how satisfied you are with your well-being in that particular area of life. And the key here is to just go with your gut, trust that first number that you come up with, pick it and stick with it. Sometimes you'll find yourself second guessing yourself and getting into drama. Don't do that. Just pick your number and stick with it. And then we're going to break it down into looking at why you've rated yourself that way, and then what it would take to get to a 10. So to get started, what you'll need to do is grab a pen and paper if you don't have one already. And we're going to start with the first area that we're going to look at is your physical well-being. And by that, I'm talking about things like your relationship to your physical body. Like, how do you feel about your body? How is your physical health? How is your sleep? How are your energy levels? Like, do you have too much energy, not enough energy? Does it peak and spike? Are there any physical ailments that you're working through at the moment? So thinking about like all of that globally, and then give yourself a rating out of 10. So write down physical and whatever it is out of 10. Like I say, just pick that number, trust yourself, and go with it. Now, under that heading, I want you to just mark a line so that you've got 2 columns under it. And in the left-hand column, take a few minutes to journal why you have rated yourself that way. So what are the reasons that you've given yourself the rating that you have? And just take a few moments to journal that. And again, trusting your intuition, going with those thoughts and not complicating it or overthinking it, just trusting what comes up and writing that down. And just give you another minute to jot down any other ideas you have there of why you've rated your physical well-being as such. And then for the next part, you're going to shift over to that right-hand column. And in there, write, what are the changes that you would need to make to get to a 10? Or what are the changes that need to occur to get to a 10? And if perchance you have already scored yourself a 10 out of 10, great, then work on what would it take to make this even better, make it an 11. So thinking about what changes could you make, what would need to shift, what would need to happen to get to a 10, and taking a few moments to do that. All right, and now we're going to move on. The key also here is not to beat yourself up, not to get into the analysis of like who, what, where, why. It's just getting these thoughts out and onto the page. So just trusting your heart, trusting what's coming up and letting that pour out. Now, the next area that we're going to look at is work. And so that could be depending on what you have going on. Like when I say work, that could be volunteering as well as actual paid work. And that kind of activity, like, is it stimulating enough? Is there a clear future? Is there a path? Are these activities fulfilling or are they draining? Are you spending too many hours or not enough hours on these work or volunteer type activities? And so just give yourself a moment to think about that and then rate your current well-being, how satisfied you are out of 10 in that regard. And then once you've given yourself that number, dive straight into that left-hand column of examining why. Why have you rated yourself that way? All right, and I'm sure you're getting the hang of this. Now it's time to jump over into that right-hand column and consider what would need to change to make it a 10. How could your work be a 10? So now the next area that we're going to move on into is relationships, which I recognize is like a huge chunk to all put together. But so going to think here about all of your relationships. So whether that be romantic, family, social, all of your interactions with humans. Maybe we should include dogs in this. I don't know. But considering your relationships, are you satisfied with the amount of time that you spend with other people? What about the quality of that time? Do you feel that you give more than you receive in relationships, or maybe the other way around? So, considering globally your level of satisfaction with your relationships, give yourself a score out of 10 and just go pick that number. I know it's a big, big grouping here, but just pick your number and trust me, trust the process. And now make your two columns under relationships. And in that left-hand column, write out the reasons that you've scored yourself that way. And it's totally okay if you want to separate it out into those different kinds of relationships, or if it's all just lumped in together. This is your thoughts, so you organize them how you would like, but focusing on why you've scored yourself the way you have. All right. And so now jump over into that right-hand column and thinking about all those different relationships. What changes would bring your level of satisfaction to a 10 out of 10? What needs to be different to get you there? And I'm working through the exercise along with you as well. So if you see me kind of looking thoughtful, it's because I'm thinking about, but why? Why did you write that, Emma? So not getting myself sidetracked with too much stuff there. We'll move on next to emotional. So write the heading emotional. And then here I'm thinking about your ability to recognize your emotions, your ability to control your emotions, your ability to ask for the support that you need. And this is sometimes the one that changes people's scores, your ability to receive the help that you call in or that you're offered. So thinking about overall like your emotional well-being, and also, in general, like what is your mood, and are you satisfied with how you feel most of the time? So giving yourself that rating and then diving into the why. All right, so sticking with that emotional category, now taking a look at the right-hand column and what changes would bring your emotional well-being to a 10 out of 10? All right, so if we're ready to move on to the next area, and of course, you can always come back and fill out more in these, and I'll talk later on about how you can continue to use this. But the next area we're going to look at is financial. So, thinking about your relationship with money in general, do you find money triggering? Like, is it something that you have a story that you're not good with money or that you are good with money? Do you have enough money to purchase the things that you want and that you need? How do you feel about the amount of control you have over your finances? How do you feel about the amount of visibility you have of your finances? How do you feel about your any financial plan? And so thinking about your relationship with finances and money and your well-being currently, give yourself that rating out of 10. And then dive into those reasons why you've scored yourself that way. Okay, then over to your next column. What changes will bring your financial well-being to a 10 out of 10? All right. So our final area is spirituality. And what I mean by that could be belief in a God, if you have a specific religion or deity that you follow, or maybe more generally, like your belief that there is something bigger than us, a higher power. Also, like your connection to yourself. So how satisfied are you with your connection to a higher power, with your connection to yourself? Or perhaps, as well, like how satisfied are you with your thoughts about religion? Like, is religion something or spirituality something that is triggering to you? So, giving yourself your score out of 10 for spirituality, and then diving into your why. Why have you scored yourself, whatever it is that you picked? All right, then hopping over to that right-hand column and looking at what changes would make your spiritual well-being a 10 out of 10. All right, so that is the end of that exercise, or that part of the exercise. This is like fundamental to the whole thing. And just take a moment here and just read through, have a look. Maybe already one stands out to you that you're like, uh-huh, yeah, that's the one that I need to work on. I know as I was writing, it became very clear to me which one was the one that was triggering for me. But take the time and have a look through and think about which area, if you were to make changes, would have the greatest impact on your life right now. And just allow yourself to read through them all, even if you have already in your mind settled on one. Read through what you've written and just let yourself consider. Now, of course, they're all linked, right? As I'm looking at mine, I'm like, well, if I make these changes, that will help. But we are complex humans living in a complex world. So everything is going to be interconnected. But having settled on picking one area, because that's the problem. If we pick more than one area, we get overwhelmed and we don't do anything. So you have to pick one. And having picked that area, really hone in on it. So have a look at that left-hand column. Like, what are the reasons? What are the things that are holding you back? What is it that is stopping you? What are the problems, the behaviors? And have a look into that and just consider what's going on there. Where are you sabotaging yourself? And so that left-hand column really, like, think of that as being the problem column. Like those are the challenges, the problems. And then hop over to your right-hand column and have a look for this particular area that you're working on. What are the themes there? What are the patterns? Like what's going on there? This is the answer. This is the solution. So have a look and see what stands out to you. And then take a moment here to just journal on what the area is that you're going to work on. So pick like, I'm going to focus on da da da. And think about like pick a timeline. What feels like a viable timeline for you to focus on this area so that you can make some progress, and then think about in that timeline, what would you like to achieve? Like, where do you want to get? So, for example, mine is financial is the one. I'm definitely one of those people who have that story that I'm terrible with money. I'm not, but I tell myself that, and it creates this drama that holds me back. So I've currently rated myself a 5 out of 10, and I'm gonna pick the end of the year, right? We're in the middle of September, so December 31st feels like a good kind of marker to give myself, especially because that's going to be like my business financial year. So it's like a logical marker too. So by December 31st, 2022, I desire to rate myself a 7 out of 10 financially. I'm being realistic. I'm not thinking I'm going to get to a 10 out of 10. This is something I've been working on for some time. So pick what area you're going to work on and your timeline and where you want to be. Pick that goal of like, how far do you want to be? And write that down. And then having done that, using the analysis that you've done on that left and right column of like what's holding you back and what needs to change to get there, jot down like, what are you going to stop doing and what are you going to start doing? What changes are you going to make? And write those down. And then with this as well, like think about, so, I wrote down I'm going to give myself a budget, but then I was like, okay, well, what happens when I blow it? Because like I get to be the one who sets my parameters and my consequences, right? So have a little bit of a thought about that. Like maybe this is an area you've already been working on, and you know how you're going to circumvent and sabotage yourself. So give some ideas about what are some of the ways that you know that you may struggle with this. All right, so I'm not going to get too much deeper into how to actually take those actions, because this workshop is really about using this tool, and I want to dive deeper into that. But I will let you know that my workshop on September 28th about overcoming overwhelm, that really focuses in on how to take action, how to take a big goal and make it manageable so that you don't just get overwhelmed and go like, I'm just not going to do it because it's too hard. So if you haven't already registered for that, September 28th, Overcoming Overwhelm is kind of the part 2 for this. Um, but you have an idea here. You know what area you want to work on, and you know what your timeline is and where you want to be, and what some of the changes are that you need to make in terms of your thoughts and your behaviors to achieve that. So that's huge, right? Instead of not knowing what to do, you've got something, you have a goal to work towards. So well done. Take a moment to congratulate yourself for doing that. That is wonderful. And now let me share with you a little bit about how you can use this tool. So what you can do, and is really powerful, to go through your columns. So like just look at that left column of all of the areas and look through and notice any patterns that are coming up. Like maybe you see a particular word repeated, or do you tend to look internally or externally when you're looking at what are the reasons that you have rated yourself that way? Or maybe it's unlikely that there's going to be no pattern. Generally, like humans, we have patterned behavior. So just have a look and kind of see, like, is there some sort of consistent thought or behavior that you see through those? And it can just be very interesting to look and notice that about yourself. So take a moment now just to do that briefly, and just see what's going on, get more insight into you and how you think. And then have a look in that right hand column, the same thing, like when you're looking at solutions and what are the changes that you need to make or you would like to make, what needs to happen to get to a 10. What are any themes and patterns there? And then, your mind starts going to, oh, but that's interesting. So why? I wonder what's behind that. And we can't dive into that here in this workshop, but that is definitely the sort of thing that I help my coaching clients with, to get behind all those thoughts and patterns. But I invite you to, if you want to work on that yourself, do some journaling, think about it. And if the idea of some more support to get into that appeals, definitely reach out. So that is one way that you can use the tool to kind of get to know your thoughts a bit better. But another really powerful way to use the wheel is to kind of track your patterns and your progress. So you can do it as often as you like. Go through that exercise of rating the different areas of your life. And of course, you can pick totally different areas for yourself, ones that make sense to you and ones that are meaningful to you. And if for some reason, for any reason, if any of my categories just didn't fit for you and your life, scratch them. It doesn't have to be 6, it can be 3, it can be 7, 12, whatever. So figure out what are your categories that are meaningful to you. And if these ones work for you, that's great. Perfect. You don't have to change it. Or if you're not sure just yet, just work with these for now. And then decide, like, how often do I want to check in with myself on this? So you can, and just because we've picked one area to work on, in my case, for the rest of the year, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything on the other areas, right? So maybe you pick your top 3 that you're going to work on or something. And so in my situation, I might revisit this at the end of December, or maybe I'll revisit it each month to see how I'm doing, to see where I feel I'm at. And although I'm focusing on my financial area, do I see that the focus there kind of leads to a detriment in another area? And so you can use it. It's fun. A lot of people like to use it monthly, a monthly kind of self-report on how am I doing. It can be very powerful. And I'm going to send an email with a handout, and it has a little wheel tool. I don't know if that is going to show up. You can see I've scribbled all over it. But it's made into a pie chart. So it's a really fun way just to color it in, and then you can see those chunks. And depending on what you're like, I love color as well. So maybe you'll color each pie section a different color so you can really clearly see where you're at. You can use that on your regular basis, whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, to check in and see where you're at. And that gives you that lovely little snapshot to look at. And you can even maybe you keep them all together and you can flick through, and then throughout the year see how things changed. And if you desire to do so, when you do that revisiting exercise, you can dive deeper into that second part where you do the left and right column. And I highly recommend that you do go in and do that work, because that's really what gives you the insight into, but why? And that's how we get to the answers and the solutions, is by asking ourselves those questions that help us to understand what is the problem and what is the solution, so that we can focus our efforts. And you might see, if you do run through this exercise regularly, patterns of that you say you're going to set yourself a budget and then you consistently blow it. So you can kind of figure out that maybe that's where you need to look. And essentially, that is how you use this tool. That is what this tool is. It's a way to get a snapshot, a picture of where are you at now. And I definitely encourage you, make it yours. Also, feel free to Google. There's tons of, sometimes it's called the Wheel of Life, sometimes it's called the Life Wheel. But if you look, and there's diagrams, and you can find another one that you like, or use the one that I send you. With any practice, always make it yours. This is your life. You get to choose what parts of the menu of things that are on offer you use and what parts you don't. So as I said, I'll send you an email later today. The video does take a while to process, so it'll probably be this evening, and do check in your junk. And then have a look at the other workshops I have coming up over the rest of the month. I will look into what's happening with the Eventbrite page to make it easier for people to join. And so whether you're watching this live or on the replay, I would love to invite you to consider one person, like who do you know that might benefit from hearing what I had to say today or from one of my other workshops? And think of that person and reach out and tell them about me, because I'm here to help people and you can help me to reach more people. And of course, if you are interested in working together one-on-one, definitely reach out. I have some space available for one-on-one clients. And I love supporting people to really get that freedom that comes from having unshakable self-confidence, so you can show up as you. You don't have to worry about what other people think about you. You know your thoughts, you know your processes, you know how you sabotage yourself, and you also know how to motivate yourself to succeed. And so that is why I am here on this planet at this beautiful time, to support you in doing that. And so I thank you for investing this time in yourself today and for joining me for this workshop. And I look forward to seeing you on future ones. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day.